Welcome to episode 1. He is Lais, and I am the coach. And that is the name of our show.
Yes. Everything stems from our identity.
You can still take a chance and take a risk, right?
What is the level of intention and attention that you were putting forth?
To us, success is being able to live life on our terms.
You're either going to take care of your health by choice or by obligation. So make it a choice now.
But it's about the experience.
If you're part of the living, you're going to have life.
What if it is better than you even thought?
We all have that limitless potential.
The fear that steps into most people paralyzes them.
I don't think anyone's ever said any of the shit you just said, which is amazing.
There's a lot of parts of you that you should let go of.
You have time for all of that. You have time for this too.
Guys, we are back.
We're back, bitches!
Welcome, everybody, to Lais and the Coach. Welcome, everybody, to Lais and the Coach in this first interview of 2026. And if you've seen my last couple of posts, then you know that this guest is exactly who we needed to talk to. Stephanie is the host of the top 1% globally ranked, the Metabolism and Menopause Podcast. So Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me and Happy New Year.
Our pleasure. We are excited. So you know, most of, I would say 90% of the people that we coach are women. And of that 90% are between 35 and 55. Perfect. And are somewhere in the range of either they're about to get into that stage of life, they are swimming through it, or they are like on the other side trying to figure out if it's ever going to end, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So my first question is, how did you end up going down this rabbit hole of menopause and fitness and all of that stuff? Walk us through how it all started.
Oh gosh, yeah. I went to university thinking I was going to be a gym teacher and learned very quickly that I don't have the patience for that. So bless the hearts and souls of all the people who are teachers out there, because you have an incredibly difficult job. And thank you for educating and raising our kids. So I always like to start with that. But I was in kinesiology and always loved it. I was always interested in health and fitness and nutrition and all the things like that. And it's funny enough that when I was working as a trainer at the gym there, everyone was always fighting over who got to work with the athletes, the hockey players, the basketball players. And I was like, so you can run a little faster, jump a little higher. I just didn't do it for me. So then I got to work with everybody else, which I loved. I worked with people who had cancer, cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, diabetes, and all the chronic conditions. And I fell in love so quickly with that demographic. And most women ended up being, in that 35 to 55 range was really who I worked with the most. Worked with a lot of firefighters and police officers as well. And there was just this massive difference between how men responded, how women responded, women who were older compared to women who were in their 20s, just so different. But I was like, there's no way all these people are doing the exact same things. And then some are lying about it. There's no way every 40-year-old is lying about their food logs and they're not pushing hard enough. And there's no way. So I was like, there's gotta be something else. And so I always did nutrition coaching kind of on the side, pursued my master's during that time, got my exercise therapy, worked in the health region for a while, did not like that once I kind of hit that cap of you really see what you're allowed to do and not to do. And all the rules and stuff that I'm like, I don't think I like this very much. And ended up opening my own studio. So I was working as a manual osteopathic therapist as well, doing nutrition on the side. I had massage therapists working underneath me, personal trainers working underneath me. So I'd been in the field for a long time. And the more I worked with people, the more you heard the stories of, I didn't change anything. And now nothing is working. I'm eating 1,200 calories and I'm not losing weight. And this is people who are 200, 250 pounds. I'm like, how can you be eating that little and not seeing changes? And so I really dove into metabolism and really understanding the body as a whole and stress responses, and then fell upon the hormone world. And I was like, oh my gosh, how do people not talk about perimenopause and menopause and how it impacts so many systems in our body? Because, the eat less, move more, calories in, calories out, low carb, fasting, more exercise, just wasn't working for people, or they'd be doing it and gaining weight. And so I kind of fell upon it, I don't know, probably about 6 years ago now. And it was before it really became mainstream. And I was like, oh my gosh, everybody has to know. Everybody has to know. And so that's really where my push went, because the advice people were getting from doctors and stuff like that was terrible, in my opinion, and what I was seeing and what people were experiencing. And then I lost my mom during that whole journey as well. And looking back, the more that I learned, the more I could like connect the dots backwards of stress and hormones. And she had fibroids and all these things. And she was always the eat less, move more, have salad with tomatoes with salt and pepper. Dressing is like on the side if she used any, like crazy. And on the outside, she looked so healthy. And then understanding how all of these things of stress and past dieting and our hormones dictate so much, not only our ability to be able to lose weight, but our ability to fight off dead cells, to avoid tumor growth, all of these things. And it sucks because I wish I would have known things earlier, because I think I could have helped her so much more. But it was just this thing looking back that it's like, oh man, now if I can help women lose weight, feel healthy, not be a shell of themselves. I only saw my mom truly vibrant for like 3 years, which is terrible to experience 3 years of vibrant life out of all the years that I had known her. So like making sure we're doing it the right way, because I don't think a lot of people understand that, the health advice that they're giving, the nutrition advice they're giving, the exercise advice that they're giving, they're not taking a full look at the person. And yeah, maybe we're working to lose 10 pounds right now, but you don't realize they're taking 5, 10, 15 years off their life by doing it the wrong way. And so that's my big push, is helping people understand, the impacts of stuff, how to do things correctly, how to work with your body instead of against it. Because perimenopause and menopause, like it fundamentally, it's like this slow drift. It really shifts all the systems in your body that are responsible for fat loss, that have a big impact on fat loss. And so when we're trying to work against those systems, or, plug money into a vending machine and expecting to get your Diet Coke, and you get cotton candy or something else instead, and you're like, what the heck is going on? It's understanding the integral stuff inside the vending machine has changed. And so now when you press this button, you don't get this outcome anymore. And so people just need to understand how their bodies work a bit better. And I think, more knowledge is coming out there finally, but it's been a long time coming. Like this is something women have gone through. Like every woman goes through it, right? So it's like, how have we not dove deeper into this? It's wild.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, very similar to you. Like when I graduated, I interned. I was going to go down a physical therapy path, and I'm seeing patients, and then you start to see like you're only going to work with somebody as long as their insurance pays for it, and then that's it.
Yes.
And it's like, what kind of impact are you really making? Or even you as a professional, how are you going to continue to develop if you're limited to see somebody? And even the person, like they're also not going to pay past what their insurance pays. So there's this whole bureaucracy of we can both work with each other, but there's somebody else telling us how much we're actually going to do.
Exactly.
And again, it was at the very beginning of when I started. It's like, this is dull. Like, I don't want to do this, right? It's like, I want to work. So, so I totally understand. And even the other component of the amount of information that is just passed down over and over and over again, that maybe isn't ill-intended, but is certainly lacking so much substance. Yet most of us don't go down the rabbit hole of questioning, is that it? Isn't there more? Like, does this person really know about this? Or are we just using the umbrella of, they went to university or they studied that, so they must know, right? They have to. Otherwise, they wouldn't be a doctor or physician or whatever. Before you go, because I know you want to like.
Well, honestly, even these days, a lot of these influencers, it's like people don't even know what the knowledge actually is when they take it. But go ahead.
But I do want to like just starting off, like, what's the biggest misconception that people have around menopause?
Oh gosh. What isn't there a misconception, right?
Where do we start?
Well, I think a lot of it is like people think it's do or die, you can't change anything, or your life is quote unquote over, or that HRT is magically going to help you lose weight. which is probably one of the biggest misconceptions that I see. And HRT can do wonders for symptoms, right? Like gets rid of your brain fog, amazing. Now you can focus better and then you have the motivation to go do the things. However, can your body absorb the HRT? Can it use the HRT? Can it break it down? Can it get rid of it? Like we see people who take HRT and have such adverse effects because their body isn't in a position to be able to actually utilize and benefit the HRT well. But you know what? HRT doesn't magically make your fat melt off. It doesn't magically make, your muscles grow. You still have to do the things. And so it's kind of like the whole GLP conversation where you still have to do all these things. You still have to do the stress management. You have to go to sleep. You have to have the veggies. You still have to do the things. But a lot of people just, they're so desperate to feel better and they just don't know what to do anymore, that they're just trying anything and everything, usually short-term stuff, right? Where it's not long enough to be able to see the changes and feel the changes and allow your body time to adapt. I think one of the biggest things for me is, when estrogen declines, I always like to call her like she's mom. She is the mom of the household, the classic, she's in charge of the grocery shopping and taking the kids everywhere and cleaning the house and the laundry and all the things, right? And so when mom gets sick, it's like the house just goes to crap. Like it is just a mess. And so is it mom's fault, or is it that the household collectively isn't necessarily working together and she's been picking up the slack and covering, what everybody else has not really been doing? And so it's the same thing with estrogen. When estrogen goes down, it shows you what you've been getting away with because she's been covering for you. When she goes down, if your blood sugar was already kind of now it's not going to be great. If you were stressed out, you're now going to feel the consequences. If you were struggling with working out the right way to actually build muscle, you were maintaining it, you were getting away with it. Now the default is muscle loss. And so it really forces you to have to look under the surface, because it's kind of like she pulls back the curtain and is like, ta-da, here's what I've been picking up the slack for. Good luck, I'm done, right? And so it's a moment where you get to really reassess everything. You're forced to. For some people, what you're forced to look at sucks because it's been a long time coming, especially if you've had a lot of trauma, especially if you've been someone who's been dieting a ton or overworking like crazy, not great boundaries. It all gets exposed and people start to panic, and so they push harder. But one of the things about estrogen is it allows you to tolerate more stress. So you could handle a 9 out of 10 and maintain. It's like this bucket, you're just kind of, the amount coming in and coming out is the same-ish. When estrogen goes down, that bucket turns into a coffee mug. And so you haven't changed anything, but what you can tolerate and hold in that cup decreases substantially. And this is where if that cup starts overflowing, we see more inflammation, our sleep gets worse, our thyroid slows down, our hormone production decreases even more, liver function gets worse, we get more bloating, we have food sensitivities we never had before, the weight gain starts just shooting up erratically, right? Where you're like, I haven't changed anything. And so then we push harder by cutting calories more and exercising more and doing all these crazy things where we're just dumping more and more water on this poor cup, when really what we got to do is increase our capacity, empty out the cup a bit, and decrease how much is going in. And so it really is this spot in your life where we are forced to reassess. But a lot of us have just normalized it so much. We're just like, oh, this is just life. It's just normal. It used to be worse before. Cool, your body doesn't care. This is how it's perceiving things, right? So you can tell yourself it's normal all you want, and you can have fantastic mental fortitude and be able to endure so much. But physiologically inside your body, those two things, you can tell yourself till you're blue in the face that, I'm not stressed out, but your body is clearly telling you otherwise. And there's things that you need to address.
One of the things that you said, at the beginning about, using hormone replacement or GLPs, I always find that it's very easy for most people to throw the umbrella over they're taking hormones, of course they look like that. Or, they're taking a shot, of course. And they never realize that just because you're using some sort of exogenous hormone, that doesn't mean that it's going to put on your shoes and drive you to the gym, or it doesn't mean that, right. It's none of those things go together, yet it's the blanket statement, right? And what have you seen, or what kind of misconceptions have you seen that people have over the relationship between introducing, whether it be some sort of, therapy related hormone use or other, and the facts?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, we have a few that are on GLPs. Half of our clients are HRT. Some of them are not, right? And it's really understanding, is your body going to respond the way that you want it to? And long term, like what do you need to do to maintain those results? And long term, what is that going to do to your health? Because we see in so many people, like I have lots of clients who we had a year ago, 2 years ago, they felt good, but they were like, I'm going to try the GLP and then totally, stopped doing the other things. And they've now returned and like we've done labs and stuff and we're like, oh my gosh, like things have gotten significantly worse after your year away. Or they're like, I got to my goal weight and I don't look the way that I want to look. And it's like, yeah, because you lost so much muscle and, muscle helps with so many different things in our body. It's not just looking good. It's your ability to be able to recover from surgeries. Like we know if you have more muscle, you have fewer surgical complications. Your hospital stays are shorter. You are less likely to end up in the hospital, less likely to have a hip fracture. Your all-cause mortality decreases, so your life expectancy increases. There's so many other things. And when we're looking at, kind of this expectation of if I take this, I'm going to have this, the amount of inflammation that people have these days, like it is insane. When we're looking at the stress hormones, we know if your cortisol is all over the place, if it's really high or if it's like tanked, like we know your body's going to be inflamed. It's not going to respond the way that you want it to. And it might make you feel better a little bit short term-ish, right? But long term down the road, what do you want 80 to look like? That's always my biggest concern. I will never forget going hiking and seeing this one with like a 75th birthday sash when she was hiking with her grandkids, with her kids. I'm like, that's what I want. I don't want to be the 80-year-old grandma in a nursing home that I have to beg my kids and bribe them to bring their kids to come visit me once a month for an hour to play cards. Like, that's not what I want. And so it's really understanding the full scope of, if I take this, what are all the risks? What are all the benefits? Is it actually going to get me to where I want to be? Yes or no? Is it sustainable? Like there's so many questions people have to ask, and I don't feel like enough people get the whole informed consent because you don't know.
Why do you think that's so hard? Because I do think that people do know. Everyone has an example of an 80-year-old that's falling apart and maybe an 80-year-old that isn't, right? It's like we are all aware that but it's almost like, when you're like 18 or 20 and you think you're invincible and you think death is so far away. So you do all these crazy things. And then you get to your 40s, you're like, wow, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. This looks dangerous. But you change because you're closer, versus being so far. And I think for those of us in our 30s and our 40s, even sometimes in our 50s, it's like, it seems like so many people miss the importance of doing it the right way. And I agree with you that a lot of times people are desperate and they just want to do something to feel better. But I also think that people have really gotten used to shortcuts, meaning like they just there are no shortcuts, but the idea of a shortcut, right?
But I also feel like there is a language problem. There's a when people say I want to lose weight, they've said it so many times and they don't even know what that actually means, right? Because I always tell somebody, well, you could lose a limb and you would lose weight, but I'm sure that's
what I say too.
Right? Like that isn't what you're looking for, right? So why do you keep repeating that you want to lose weight, right? So it starts fundamentally at the repetition of this narrative of, or even I want to weigh what I weighed in high school. It's like you were a child, right? It's like, why did you stop there? Why are you stopping it? Why don't you want to weigh what you weighed when you were 10, right? That's not what you're looking for, but you keep using that language to solve a problem that isn't really there instead of getting down to the root of what you're trying to fix or solve. But because you don't update, that language, then we can't even get to the shortcut part because you're taking the shortcut for something you don't even want.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, like, you have this idea of like, if I'm this weight, I'm going to be happier because you look at what you were when you were that weight and you were happier. And I'm like, okay, when I think of like the time that I was the most fit in my life, I was single. I was working a job with crazy good flexibility. I could do what I wanted when I wanted. It was the first time that I was like living on my own after like living with partners. Like I had so much less stress. I had so much more flexibility. I got to eat what I wanted, meal prep what I wanted, not think about anyone else, just myself, just all this freedom. I'm like, I was fit because I didn't have as much stress, less financial obligations. I was actually sleeping. Like I had an active job. There were so many other factors. And now it's like you can't compare like the weight is the thing that made you happy. It's not. What are the things that you were doing back then that you're not doing now? Was it relationships that you had, friendships, more freedom, more free time? Were you reading? Like there's so many other things that people need to really understand. But also when we're going through perimenopause and menopause, we are going through like crazy huge life transitions in this time of our life. We have parents who are dying or sick. We have more financial obligations, kids leaving the house, going to university. There's weddings coming up. Maybe you're like, oh my gosh, I've been living in the same house as my partner for, the last 25 years. And now that our kids are out of the house, I don't even know who the stranger is that I'm with and we're supposed to enjoy our time together. That's weird. I don't have hobbies as I've spent my whole life just like catering to my kids. There is so much. People are like, I'm not stressed. I'm like, crap. So much crap.
You're so stressed.
Yes.
Stress. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some of like, obviously, everyone's heard like hot flashes and whatever, but what's some of the stuff that women probably miss that might be, entering the menopause phase, like where you might like, is it this? Because I hear that often. Obviously, we know a lot of times what to look for, but
Yep.
it's one of those things where it's like every woman starts to see shifts and thinks that they're approaching their menopause. So it's like, what are some of the signs, I guess, for lack of a better word, that solidifies or makes someone be like, maybe I should check this, other than the usual hot flashes or, irregular periods and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one thing I like to always like ask people is like, ask them about what their like hormone symptoms were like with their period prior versus how are things now. Because when we see that shift of like, oh, I'm more irritable, I have more cravings than I used to, or I feel a bit more bloated than before. It's when you start noticing these like subtle shifts in what your PMS type symptoms might be, because that is a huge sign that things are starting to adjust. Things are starting to fluctuate more. I also love looking at like cognitive stuff. We know that like out of the top 10 complaints that women complain about perimenopause and menopause, 9 out of 10 are cognitive based. So whether it's irritability, mood, the brain fog, you can't focus as well, you get lost for words, those kinds of things pop up a lot too. And people just like chalk it up of like, oh, I'm just being forgetful or whatever. And it's like, no, these are things that are happening, right? And then gut health issues are a big one too. So sudden like food sensitivities or bloating or like constipation, things that you never really struggled with before. And it's always subtle changes at first where your body's just telling you to be aware. And that doesn't mean it's like, oh, it's happening and you just brush it off. It's like, what can we do to make these like fluctuations in estrogen and progesterone not be so intense? Because we don't want to have this crazy big difference between estrogen and progesterone. We know you're going to be estrogen dominant through most of perimenopause because progesterone drops before estrogen, but estrogen can be super high one day and then like really low the next. And so it's like you're on this massive, crazy roller coaster that you feel like you have no control over versus like, what can we do to make the highs a little less high? The lows a little less low. So it feels like one of those little kiddie train type of roller coasters instead of this crazy Six Flags experience. And people are just so quick to be like, oh, it's just menopause. I'm just going to like ride through it and eventually it'll be fine. And it's like, or we can like help support your system so it sucks a little bit less and that you're setting yourself up for success. And when you really understand, what happens when estrogen is low, what happens when we have that discrepancy between estrogen and progesterone, what happens when progesterone goes down, like you can start helping support those hormones a little bit more, make better hormone like choices in a way, right? We know if you're super stressed, progesterone's going to tank real quick. We see this in like our CEOs, the managers, the very type A, go career type woman. Progesterone usually tanks pretty early, and we're seeing it earlier and earlier in women, like in their early 30s, their late 20s even, because they're just so stressed out or they've been on birth control for a super long time and nobody tells them that like the progesterone in birth control is not like actual progesterone. It's a progestin and has the opposite effect. It suppresses your hormone production. And like, so there's all of these things that people just don't fully understand of what happens when this hormone goes down. How can I help like mitigate that? So if I know that, okay, like my progesterone going down is going to affect my sleep, what are things that I can start doing to improve my sleep? Because we know that if your sleep gets worse, just one poor night of sleep makes you 25% more insulin resistant the next day. So the exact same meal that kept your blood sugar stable the day before is now not going to have that same effect. And that's, of course, over time, going to cause you to gain weight, increase your risk of diabetes, those kinds of things. And so it's really understanding it's not just, oh, it's these symptoms. It's under the surface, those symptoms, how are they going to affect your health long term, which is going to affect like your weight long term as well, because everything is so intricately connected.
So zooming out a little bit, like there's a lot there, right? And how eliminating the natural course of hormone decline, how much of those things are happening as a result of your patterns and routines? Like, for example, could they be correlated to hormonal changes, or are you not watching what you eat, not sleeping, over the top stressed out, and maybe you're not perimenopausal yet, but you're doing a really shit job at taking care of yourself, right?
You want to blame perimenopause.
Like, how much of those are following the same trajectory, and then, but it's still not, you're still not perimenopausal.
Yep. No. And like we see this all the time, right? Like someone who's 25, 30 should not be perimenopausal. But then you do your labs and you're like, oh, wow. I mean, that was me. My progesterone and estrogen were postmenopausal range at like 25. And I was like, okay, I have to start taking care of myself better. And it wasn't that I wasn't working out. It wasn't that I wasn't eating quote unquote healthy. It was that I was not sleeping enough. I was over exercising, not focusing on recovery, and not eating enough food. And we see this with people all the time because people need to understand, can hormones affect those, like cause those symptoms? Absolutely. But what's causing the hormones to fluctuate so wildly? What's causing the hormones to decline more quickly? And it all has to do with things that are in our control, right? Surgical menopause, okay, obviously, like you go from hormones one day to no hormones the next, right? But it's very, people don't understand that, like, yes, hormones can cause these symptoms influencing weight gain, but what's causing the hormones to go there? Because it's not just natural decline. And there are people who can go through perimenopause and menopause and handle it relatively well versus people who like feel like they have that Mack truck moment where it's like, I feel like I just got hit by a car one day and then everything went to crap. And so it really is understanding what influences hormones, which is literally everything. Your stress, your sleep, the kind of food that you eat, how often you eat, how little you don't eat, right? Like there's so many things, even like the things that we're exposed to in terms of like endocrine disruptors. So, you know, the kind of skincare that you use, the kinds of toxins you're exposed to, the kind of foods that you eat, like there's so much stuff. And we live in such a high stimulus, go, 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 hustle culture, always attached to our phone. It's no wonder we're struggling so much more than like parents did, grandparents did, because it wasn't talked about enough. So I think that's part of it. But also you would get home from work. No one could get to you unless you happen to be in your kitchen by the phone, which was corded to the wall, right? Like such a different lifestyle. And so I think a lot of us don't realize that the environment that we've like curated for ourselves is not one where the default results in health. It's not. Like we have to work so hard to have boundaries. We have apps that turn off your phone at a certain time. Like it is crazy how much harder we have to work to actually just de-stress. Like when's the last time you took time to slow down your heart rate, to slow down your breathing rate? Most of us are like, oh, I'm fine. I'm not stressed. I'm like, well, tell me when's the last time you like actively tried to lower your heart rate? And they're like, oh, I'm like, yeah, you are go, 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 go from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed.
And you know, I was going to ask you observationally, because it's hard to say, but observationally, how have you seen that people just don't want to do that, right? Like you sit down with somebody and you say, listen, you're really stressed and you really need to sleep more. And like, how much does their brain like, what are you talking about,
I need to
sleep?
lose
I need to
weight.
lose weight.
Sleep.
I thought you were going to help me lose weight.
Yeah.
Like, how hard is it for people to really come to terms with the fact that they're not doing everything that they can, and that it's just, and it isn't move more, eat less. There are so many other things that are going to influence whether or not, forget losing weight, you even feel good, right, at this point, but you just don't want to hear it.
Yeah, so a ton of education, a lot of like banging your head against the wall sometimes, right? But it is like we do like Dutch testing with everyone so we can show them where their like stress hormones actually are throughout a day. And I find that's very helpful because some people are like, oh, this is like concrete data, like this, it's
Irrefutable.
there. I like can't fight it, right? Like it's on the paper. And so I find that's really helpful and it's really helped with our clients like take their stress more seriously. But it is just a lot of education and understanding, like kind of the hormone hierarchy. Like you have cortisol at the top. It's the puppeteer master. She controls and influences literally every cell in your body. Then we move down into insulin. Then we move down into sex hormone or thyroid, then sex hormones. Like there's so many things. And so people start trying to address like estrogen, progesterone. I'm like, okay, but your thyroid is going to have a bigger impact on those things trickling down. And blood sugar will have an even bigger impact on that. And cortisol, like if you don't address that, you're never going to get healthy. If
Right,
I'm
like, why are we
going to
even
be
talking?
honest.
You're not gonna.
Exactly. And it's like people don't understand, even looking at blood sugar. Everyone's like, oh, I got to take carbs out. I'm like, it doesn't solve the problem that your body can't utilize carbohydrates well, which is what your body uses for fuel. Taking out the carbs doesn't fix the problem. And also, you're still going to see your blood sugar go up because if you are stressed, cortisol just tells your body, hey, I need energy to meet this demand. Even if you're just sending an angry email to your boss, like you're not having to exert a bunch of energy, but your body perceives it as such. And so cortisol goes up, dumps sugar into your bloodstream, and then you're on this crazy blood sugar ride all day, even though you're not having carbs, even though you're fasting, even though you're working out and doing quote unquote all the right things. Cortisol will trump everything every single time. And so people take the HRT, they take, the medication to improve their blood sugars, their cholesterol, all those things, their thyroid. But under the surface, cortisol is still the problem. And just because you don't feel the symptom doesn't mean it's still there, causing issues. And it will result in things like cardiovascular disease, cancers. Like there are so many things that we see correlated to stress now that cool, you put a band-aid on one thing, it's still going to manifest to something else somewhere else. Like that's what happened to my mom. We see it in people all the time. This is why you see people who are quote unquote so healthy and so fit getting cancer. And people are like, this doesn't make sense. I'm like, yeah, it does. It absolutely does. And it sucks.
We don't really talk about like the metabolic demand of the brain, right? Like that, just your same example is like you're sending an angry email. It's like, how long did it take you to come up with that email? How many times did you go erase it,
stewed it over?
Right? Like, are you up all night thinking about it? It's like, and no one's equating how much energy your body is going through just feeling those feelings and thinking those thoughts. And of course, you're not equating that into your macro calculator because there isn't even a button for it, right? There isn't a stress, calories burned or calories used for that. So even on the education side, it's like you don't even know to ask that. So you might be out there looking for better information, but you're not even looking for that one. So you might come up with the right macro, amount and the right exercise prescription, but you didn't even factor the other stuff in that is on the top, like to your point, like on the top, on the echelon of everything that we need to mitigate before you even get to losing any weight.
Well, we're more complex than a math equation. Like you could have the perfect calories calculated, right, from online calculators or whatever, but what is your body going to do with those calories? Because we see people eating 1,200 calories and gaining weight, and then we address things, they're eating 800 calories and losing weight. And so what's more important is what is your body going to use with those calories? Is it going to use it as energy, or is it going to store it as fat? If you're eating and you're exhausted and you're gaining weight, your body is taking every calorie, regardless of how many you're consuming, and storing it as fat. And so it's really understanding it's not just calories that matter. It's what your body does with those calories. And no freaking online calculator out there is going to give you that answer. It's so frustrating.
Yes, yes. And most people don't realize how stressed they are. Like you said, they're like, I'm not stressed. I'm not stressed. I do that all the time. Most people don't
Oh,
realize.
that too. That's why I have an Aura ring now. It's very humbling. I like travel for a conference and I'm like, oh, I love this so much. And it's like, you had 16 hours of stress. And I'm like, oh, okay. That explains why I'm going to be sick in 3 days.
Yeah, I'm always like, I'm good, I'm good. And the other thing is how many people don't realize how stressed they are, but then also how much people don't really take that seriously. It's
No.
almost like you either need to have a really big problem to address it, or
Oh, yeah.
you think that your stress is going to, diminish when. Like if this, then that, right? Once my
Yep.
kid gets into college, or once my kids are bigger, or once I change jobs, or once my financial situation gets better, once I change, like whatever, once I lose the 10, 15, 20 pounds, then I will be like, you're not, and we see
No.
it all the time, but most people will do, not most, a lot of people will do any crazy strict diet
Oh,
and
yeah.
they will follow it to the T and get no results. Like they will do something that's actually so difficult that you can't sustain, that is out there, but they won't stop and do the right thing that will long term help them. And
Oh,
just,
yeah. And I was the same. I was like, I'm the exception to the rule because I teach this stuff. And it's like, no, like I remember going into my first fat loss phase after I had my son. And it went well for about 4 weeks. And then out of nowhere, it was like I wasn't sleeping. My energy was crap. I was crying all the time. And the scale went up 7 pounds so fast. And I was only at 1,600 calories, which like isn't that severe of a deficit for me. And I was like, oh my gosh. So then I actually pulled back on all exercise for 7 weeks completely, only did walking, prioritized my sleep, and started adding my calories in. I was eating 2,100 calories and losing weight. Like it was insane. And I'm like, okay, I'm not the exception to the rule. Like
But
my
even
body
that,
clearly wasn't ready.
like, look at the way you positioned it. It's like 7 weeks. It's like who's doing 7 weeks of just walking and prioritizing sleep these days when
Yep.
everybody's in such a rush, right? And it does make it difficult to even explain that to somebody, or honestly most people that don't
Yep.
want to hear it, right? Like they just don't want to hear it. So what do you say to somebody who you can clearly see like you really need to dial it down, like, or you're at a
Mhm.
conference and you're stressed? It's like you don't want to come back home and like double down because you took 2 days off to go to a seminar, right? Like,
Mhm.
how are you positioning this stress management issue? Uh, Maybe somebody who's never heard of it. They're oblivious to the idea that they were even stressed. How are
Mhm.
you positioning that to like that beginner? Is
Oh,
there
yeah.
a thing as beginner stress?
beginner.
Beginner stress.
Well, I always like to like educate. I usually send like a couple podcasts over where I explain like, okay, when stress goes up, this is how it affects all the systems in your body. And so that way they at least understand, okay, I can see how this is bad, but I don't feel like I'm stressed, right? That's what you get. It's like, oh, I understand that, but that's not me. And I'm like, bull crap, it's not you. And so it's like, if I told you about my day, like, and I get them to like tell me about your day. I'm like, where do you slow down there? And they're just like, oh, okay, I see. It's the not slowing down. And so it's sometimes changing the verbiage for some people of where do you actually slow down in your day? Scrolling on social media does not count because that increases your cortisol and your dopamine, which will make things worse. So I'm like, where do you actually slow down? Where do you actually fill up your cup? And so just showing them that sometimes helps a lot. But I'm also like, you are so keen to spend hundreds of dollars on supplements and all these crazy things. I'm like, how long and how much money does it take you to take 5 slow, deep breaths before you start any meal? That stuff is free and takes you 30 seconds. Like, how, like, just all these tiny little things. I'm like, just like eating a piece of cake every day, that's going to add up in the long run, probably, right? Why wouldn't it be the same with slowing down? Why wouldn't it be the same with, slowly adding veggies in, increasing your hydration, whatever it is? We know all those little things add up over time. And right now, the scales for poor health, high stress versus counteracting that, super, super unbalanced when we count all those things, right? Or I make them make a list of like, what are all the demands in your life? What are all the things that stress you out? And it's okay, how much of this do you think about every single day? How many of these things are you actually doing every single day? How are we counteracting that? Like sometimes having it written out and like visually seeing it is like oh my gosh, like wow. And like how much of the things that you do are for you versus the job you might not like or like obligations that you didn't want to do, right? Like writing all those things down. It's like highlight the things that are actually for you. And then that's usually like a pretty big like,
Do you think we have, back to the language, do you think that most people think stress is like a heart attack?
That's
like,
what I was gonna say.
right?
Like,
Like,
what would it take for it to be qualified as stress? Like,
Right.
is the house?
oh yeah,
burning
it's
down?
gonna, yeah, it's gotta be like everyone thinks it's a big trauma, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't have childhood trauma, I'm not stressed. Or, you know, my finances are good. Or, you know, like everyone thinks it has to be like these big things. I'm like,
Right.
no, sometimes it's literally you just wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is check your phone. And then you slam coffee. Like,
People don't realize that your body doesn't know the difference, like you said. Like that,
no.
well, might as well the house be on fire or a lion's chasing
Exactly.
you. Like
Well,
so.
and it's just like over time. And if you never take those breaks, it's like, what do you expect your body to do? Like, it's not sustainable. Like, would you expect to be able, like, you look at ultra marathoners, most of us are like, there's no freaking way I could do that. Not a chance. I would die. Like, my body would not hold up. I would fall apart at like mile 10, probably sooner. Let's be honest. That was very generous for myself.
Right.
But like our lives are like that. We treat it like these marathons, but we don't make the connection. Like we think it has to be like this physical ailment or like this massive catastrophic event. It's like, no, it's literally the fact that you just don't stop. Like you literally do not stop. And then when you do stop to go to sleep, you're not even sleeping through the freaking night because you're so stressed out that your body doesn't know how to relax because it's on alert all the time. It's almost like, you know, if it was a zombie apocalypse, you probably would not sleep well at night because you're like, if I fully fall asleep, I could die.
Right.
It's kind of like that. And people are just like, nah. And I'm like, do you think it's
good.
normal to not sleep through the night? That's not normal. Super common, not normal. Very, very different things.
Yeah.
I do want to ask a question because you said something in passing, birth control.
Mhm.
How, like, what do women past, 35, 40, not really factoring in when they were on birth control for a while and maybe they're not now? Or what are some of the things that most people aren't really factoring in when it comes to birth control that they should?
Well, birth control suppresses your hormones, right? And so if you've been on it for long enough, which is what happened to me, I was on birth control for way too long, super young. Took a long time to get my fertility back because your body just never sends the signal to produce hormones. And so think of like old electrical in a house. If like things are worn down, the signal doesn't get sent anymore, you have to do a bunch of rewiring and stuff to get that signal to even turn on that light bulb. And so we're kind of the same where it's if our body has been so out of it, not receiving the proper signaling to produce, now you're like, okay, take it away and expect it to be fine. No, because your body is like getting those artificial progestins. So it thinks it's getting progesterone. So it's functioning okay-ish. Some people have terrible experiences on birth control, right? Where they have the bloating, the brain fog, the irritability, their mood changes. It's this whole wild thing. And it's because progestin and progesterone are actually like opposing. They're not the same thing. And what we see is then you take that away and your body goes from thinking it has some to knowing it for sure has nothing. And it also doesn't have the ability to produce. And so what we see a lot of the times is women will be on birth control because they're dealing with hormonal symptoms, right? And they don't want to deal with them. So they're on them because their doctor, prescribes them and tells them this is what they do, instead of addressing the root problem as to why are you having these symptoms? And so then what happens is, you get off the birth control and it's like, okay, now the signaling is already not there, but also it's so much harder to get back because it's already like sparking a bit, right? Like it's just not a consistent signal to begin with because things are changing. We're seeing that hormonal decline. So we see those symptoms hit them so much harder, but also we know there's negative side effects from having too little estrogen and too little progesterone in our bodies. And so what we're seeing is women are going even longer without the protective effects of the hormones. And so we see more cardiovascular disease risks. We see more diabetes. We see more osteoporosis, especially with how sedentary we are now and the kind of foods that we're eating. We're already, the default is not health. And then if we're taking away those protective hormones by being on birth control, we're experiencing that even more. And then on top of that, when we go off of them, when we're starting to see that hormonal decline, of course we're going to feel terrible. And like, it's just, there's so many things that I wish I would have known when I was younger and like on birth control. Cause I'm like, I think I would have made a lot different choices, a lot different, because it is crazy. My sensitivity to things is insane. Like I cannot work out when I travel. Walking, that's it. Doesn't matter how long I'm there for. Travel, my body is so sensitive to stress. If I'm not sleeping well, junk the next day. Like, and I've done so much to improve and get my hormones to a better place. But because of all the crap that I've been through as a kid and the birth control and all these other things, it's like you have soldiers in your body that their job is to like shoot down any incoming invaders. Your body sees a butterfly and starts shooting erratically. Like it's just triggered so much more easily, even though up here, I know I'm totally fine. I'm totally safe. Things are fine. I'm going on a vacation, wherever it might be. And my body's like, we are going to die. So now we're on defense mode.
I'm the same. A leaf falls from a tree and you would think I'm about to die.
Yep. 100%. And like in your brain, like you're like, I know I'm fine. But your body's like, alert, alert. Yes.
So the other day I was talking about, and it's kind of what I said at the beginning. It's like not necessarily eliminating, but kind of mitigating symptoms, right? Is that what people should be shooting for? Like, should you be shooting to say, well, if I do this, it'll reduce the amount of this and I won't feel it as much. And if I do that, then that'll reduce the amount of this and I won't feel that as much. Or should they be aiming for elimination?
So ideally, everyone's gonna be a little bit different, right? Especially with like genetics and how like your family lines are and stuff, right? Like looking at how your parents, like how your mom would have handled it, and what her symptoms were, that tells you a little bit, right? But the goal is to reduce symptoms as much as possible because that tells you, are things balanced and is your body functioning properly? Everyone just like wants to take the Band-Aid to like get rid of the symptoms so they can feel better. But it's not addressing that root cause. And we know that if we're not addressing the root cause, the low estrogen or the high cortisol isn't just causing the hot flashes, and it's also causing worse thyroid function. It's also causing worse blood sugar control. And so it's understanding that if we're addressing the root cause as to why that symptom is the way that it is and why your hormones are the way that they are, your overall health will be substantially better. When your overall health is better, your body is better at taking food and turning it into fuel instead of storing it as fat. But everybody wants to go, I don't want to feel this and I want to be skinny. And I'm like, cool, awesome. Love that for you because that's a great, we all aspire to that, right? Everybody wants that. But we have to make sure your body is functioning properly. Otherwise, you go back to the whole press the A1 on the vending machine and then E3 starts dumping out candy that you hate or whatever it is. Like we have to make sure that your body is going to respond appropriately to the inputs. Because if it's not, that's where we see disease progression. This is where we see you struggling. You're on this hamster wheel that you can't get off and you're super frustrated. And so it's understanding that what we are doing to your lifestyle, the way that you eat, the way that you have boundaries, the way that you de-stress, that you hydrate, that you work out, are actually going to make the systems work so that when you press A1, you get the Kit Kat bar coming out of A1. You don't get whatever else that you don't want, right?
And then what kind of, like, how are you addressing the person who is smack in the middle of it? They're like, I'm going through menopause, but I'm not sleeping good. And if I don't kill myself in the gym, it's like I didn't work out. So I'm still going to do that. And obviously I've cut carbs because it's the only way I'm going to, like, I get everything you're saying, but there is no way that I'm going to do these other things because, like, why go to the gym if I'm not going to destroy my body, right? And like, I got to get up early because I saw a post about it. Like, how are you addressing that for it to make sense to them?
I ask them how long they've been doing it for and has it been effective and how do they feel? And usually then they go, okay, I'm listening. Right. And then you can kind of start tackling things slowly. Like I'm very big on like, let's try and do one thing at a time, depending on the person. For other people, I'm like, no, we need to stop this immediately. Like say goodbye to CrossFit for 7 weeks. Like we need to just give your body a break. And I'm like, and it's not like this thing that you're doing forever. It's a temporary thing to allow your body the space to calm down. Because then if we have a good baseline, then we can see what your body actually sees as a stress. So for myself, if I'm in a fat loss phase, I can really push myself in the gym and I can usually be fine. Calorie deficit, for whatever reason, my body is like, throws that up as a danger sign. This is like the butterfly flying through and like my body shooting it down. Whereas like the gym, I can push myself a lot more. But I wouldn't know that unless I had a baseline and I can see how my body responds.
Right.
And plus, for me in a deficit, like I love food. So I would way rather go do a little bit extra working out and still be able to have my pasta, right? Like that's where I'm coming from. But it's really helping them understand, okay, if you make this choice, this is the symptom that we're going to be addressing. If we make this choice, this is what we're addressing. And you give them choices. Because I always like to say, this outcome or like this action will give you this outcome. This action gives you this outcome. There's no right or wrong. There's just trade-offs. Certain trade-offs will accelerate the process. Certain trade-offs will prolong it. Whatever you feel comfortable with is what we will do. But if you do this, timeline extends to here. If you do this, timeline gets shortened. And so it's really laying it out for them of what's the expectation based on the actions that they're taking. And most people are going to go, ooh, I don't know. They get sick of how long it's taking. They'll finally listen to you and then they'll see the changes and they're like, oh, okay, here we go. And then you get that buy-in, right? But it takes time for some people. Like it really does. It's scary because you see it everywhere. The whole hustle culture, like have to be super sweaty. I'm like, the most effective workouts I have ever had have been the ones that don't leave me drenched in sweat, completely exhausted after a workout. I did those for years. And then as soon as I switched, it was like my body was able to get the signals, to recover, to build, to change. It was completely different. And when you realize that you don't have to like butcher yourself in this process, like everyone thinks that it's this whole no pain, no gain crap. I'm like, that's like the worst saying that ever came out. Is there going to be effort? Yes, obviously. But the pain, that's the no gain part, is slowing down.
Yeah.
Because it's painful to slow down. We're so used to, if I work hard in my career, that's how I got there. If I worked out here, that's how I got there, right? And so now when you're telling them to slow down, they're like, but everything I've achieved has come from this crazy hard work. I'm like, redefine hard. Hard isn't the pushing, the sweating, the suffering. It's hard to slow down. It's hard to go to bed early. It's hard to eat the vegetables. It's hard to eat enough calories. You have to redefine what the no pain, no gain, have to work hard to get results means, because it's not the push all the time.
I agree. And the hormonal switch is coming for all women, right?
It is looming for everyone. It is there.
So where in the journey should they start getting the education that they need in order to start preparing, or what should they be doing like before any of it so that they know what to expect and how to manage some of the things so the symptoms are not as aggressive?
Oh man, I think women should be learning this when they're in freaking high school. Like the whole sex ed class, I'm like, yeah, I get it. Abstinence, condoms, all those things. What about me? Like, what about how I feel, my health? Yeah, like because like if you don't feel good because you've got brain fog, you can't focus, like you're irritable. Like look at how many people have anxiety and depression and stuff now, PMDD and endometriosis. Like it's so clear to me that like we need to start sooner on the education. That's what everyone says. Like, I wish I would have known this sooner. I would have been doing things so differently in my 40s. I would have been doing things so differently in my 30s. And I think it's getting better. But I mean, there's a reason women have postmenopausal hormonal levels in their 30s now. There's a reason why there's so much infertility. And so I don't think people realize the trade-offs early enough. Like this is something that like I will be educating my kids on once, we're getting through puberty and stuff of like what matters, and we're putting on muscle and we're being active and we have boundaries and we're prioritizing sleep and we're not on our screens all the time. Like understanding how impactful that is, because it's so much harder to change things once you're already 40, 50 compared to teens, 20s, 30s. Your body responds so differently. And if we're starting in a worse place in our 30s, health-wise, which statistically we are, it makes that transition freaking hard. And it's like, if you don't want your kids to go through what you are going through right now, please start sharing this stuff with them, educating them on these things. Like it matters so much, and you don't understand, you taking control of your health and understanding what that can do for the generations in your family to follow. Like massive, massive. Because, we all have the parent that died of cancer or, had a heart attack or whatever it might be, Alzheimer's. And we're super hyper aware of like, that's not going to be me. That's not going to be my kids. Menopause is the same thing. And we don't realize what a huge, how this transition goes, the trajectory of your health for the rest of the life. Like it matters so much. So I would say so early.
Right. And I guess that was my next question. It's like, what do you say to the person that's either watching or listening? They're like, I'm not sure if I'm there. I'm not sure if that's me. I think I kind of sort of feel something. Like, what do you say to that person that's unfamiliar with any of this and they just, back to the death thing, like, yeah, maybe one day, but they're smack in the middle of it right now. It's like, what do you say to them?
Well, I just say like, especially if people like aren't sure and they're like, oh, that won't be me. I've been fit my whole life. I'm like, yeah, I said that too. I said that too. We all have, right? And so I think the big thing is, but what if it's not, and even what if you are in it? What if you're not in it? Does it really matter? Like, does your health have to what does it take for you to have to take your health seriously to be that 80-year-old grandma who can be on the hike versus, the one in the nursing home? The choices that you make today are going to impact that future. And so like we work with women who are postpartum, perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. It doesn't matter, because taking control of your health and your hormones and truly understanding that, like there is nothing more valuable than quality of life. Like, do you want your last 10 years to be in a nursing home? I don't. Absolutely not. I don't want to be in a wheelchair. I want to be doing the things, alive and vibrant and being the grandma that's asked to babysit. And so I think a lot of us just don't think that far into the future, or we think, oh, that'll never happen. But what if it does? What if there was something you could do today that would change that trajectory? That's what really matters. And having those conversations with people is tough sometimes. And it does usually take like a parent or a grandparent having like a pretty rough prognosis or watching them suffer that will kind of, make it more real for them. But for other people, it's just harder, right? Or they're so caught up in their work that they're like, oh, I'll prioritize this once we're set, once we're ready. Yeah. And I'm like, you're not going to get there. It's going to be too late.
A lot of times we all, like you said, we have more information and we have adapted more of a healthy or conscious lifestyle than our parents and grandparents, right? Like we are more active and we do pay attention to how much water we're drinking and we do exercise. Like everything I do, my parents didn't, but they also didn't have the level of stress, like you're saying, that we have, because we have so much more we want to do, because now sky's the limit and you see all the possibilities and you're connected and you have all these things. So yes, they maybe they neglected their health. People smoked so much more and drank so much more, right? And I think these days it's not as common to see people smoking cigarettes everywhere. Obviously, people still do it, but not like back then. And so many people don't drink anymore, right? Like it's definitely a healthier, more health conscious like era, but there is also so much more stress and the quality of our food has gone down.
Well, I was gonna say food quality. Everyone's like, oh, I'm healthy, I eat a protein bar. I'm like, that's not real food. Like, do you know how many preservatives are in it? Fake fibers, sugar alcohols that like irritate a lot of people's guts. I'm like, no, no. To me, I'm just like, we're not doing that.
Yeah, to your point, a lot has changed. So even though we can see our grandparents or parents and be like, yeah, but they didn't live a healthy lifestyle and I do, right? We still do have to, we have other things to juggle and to tackle and to manage.
100%. It's so different, especially I feel like women are in that era of like, I can do anything, right? So it's like your mom, you're a best friend, you're the best daughter taking care of your parents, you're also managing your career and trying to be a good wife and like all of these things. And then you're also like, supposed to cook most of the meals. And like, there's just all this like external pressure that like didn't exist 20, 30, 40 years ago, right? Like it is just such a different life. And like you think of, I don't know, all the extracurriculars you're always driving your kids to, and you're like, oh, I'll just have a protein bar if I'm in a rush. If you're having a protein every day, like protein bar every single day, that's not like a in case thing. That's poor planning. Like if it's a pattern, it's poor planning.
I hear
People
you.
don't like that.
So what would you say, from the beginning of this talk, like there were so many different, you went down so many different avenues over the years with the work that you do and the people that you serve. What would you say has been the most impactful, now with the thing that you do now with the menopause, perimenopause, and all the things that you do? What would you say has been the most impactful part of that side of your work or this current side of your work?
In terms of like impact I'm creating?
Of for you, like impactful for you.
For me, it was definitely like the whole story of like losing my mom super suddenly, being able to look back and connect the dots. Was that really forced me to like, I get obsessed with stuff pretty quick. Like I'm going to research everything I can find. And just like the books that I'd read and stuff, it made me realize so much how we have no idea the amount of stress that we have in our lives, the amount of like, that it's impacting our ability to show up as the person we want to be. Like we're so concerned with being everything to everyone all of the time and people pleasing and, just looking for acceptance. And we're finding this like challenging part of, I want to be different and I want to stand out, but I also want to be loved and accepted. And those two seem to clash so much, especially when we're in a fat loss journey and a health journey. It's like, I want to be different, but not so different that my friends are making fun of me for like not having a drink on the weekend. And, there's just like this constant like pull between the two things. And I think like the most impactful thing that I've seen for me is when women finally start, being who they were meant to be. And they're not just what they do, they actually start to love themselves for who they are. And like even in our coaching, I do mindset calls like every Monday, and it's usually a little bit of like scripture based in there. And we focus on like identity and things like that because we're lost like with the comparison and social media, and we have no idea who we are. We have no idea what we want. Truly, we have no idea. And we don't know what makes us happy anymore. What brings us joy? Are we doing it because we actually like these things, or are we doing it because we were told that we like these things, or it's what's expected of us, or that's what being a good mom is, or whatever it might be? And so my favorite is when I get to see the women, like you see that vibrant change. They become more confident. And yes, obviously I want you guys to lose weight, but when you see the health and like just their mental state change, it is the most incredible thing, because as soon as you change that and you change how you view yourself, anything is possible.
Your whole life changes.
Oh, because subconsciously you will always act based on what you believe to be true about yourself. For the longest time, I thought I was an impatient person. So I was snippy. Like I was very like, nope, not dealing with that. Short-tempered, nope. And then one of my friends was like, oh, you're so patient. And she like gave me an example of like some work things. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am a patient person. And now I act more patiently because I believe that to be true about myself. And so it's this whole thing of when you change what you actually believe about yourself, you act so differently and it's unconscious. And so that's the part where I'm just like, oh man, when we see people make that change and do that internal work with us, I am like, the rate of acceleration in terms of their health, their happiness, the weight, even just like decreased stress, less pressure. It is amazing. And like, I only got to see my mom experience that for a few years, and it is the most rewarding thing. And people think it's selfish, but then when they realize like your kids want to see you happy, it makes them want to be around you. Your coworkers want to be around you. Your relationships get better. Everything changes. Your weight doesn't change that. And so that's where I love, like, that's my favorite part. And so it's like, yeah, we talk about hormones and fat loss and all the things, but deep down inside, I'm like, if I could just talk about like the identity stuff, oh my gosh, would I ever be happy?
Heard that.
We can relate to all of that.
100%. And honestly, like we couldn't have planned it, but this is the conversation that we needed to have to kick off the year, because it's so much more of the things that we want to keep bringing to light, because it isn't talked about enough. It isn't really addressed enough, and it is the thing that we also like love to talk about and work on. So I'm so glad that we were able to have this talk to kick off the year. Where can people find you? Website?
So our podcast is the Metabolism and Menopause Podcast. We have topics on like every single hormone and question and thing that we've ever been asked. And then you can also find me on Instagram at vitality.oet.stephanie. And we do have a Facebook community as well with over 29,000 women in there, with tons of free content and resources and webinars and things like that. And it's Metabolism and Menopause by Vitality.
That's amazing.
Love it.
Stephanie, thank you so much
It was
for
a great chat.
joining us today. I know that our listeners are going to watch this episode quite a few times, because there's things that they really need to dive a little bit deeper on. And I will link all of your website, your podcast, and your social media in the show notes so that people could go follow you and check all those out. To all of you guys that are watching, listening, I wish you all a very happy new year. Thank you so much for joining us, and do the liking and the sharing and the commenting that people are supposed to do. And till next time, peace out, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.